Rain lashed against the dimly lit streets, its icy drops soaking through the thin sweater of 9-year-old Lila. She stood outside a small-town diner, the warm glow inside casting silhouettes of laughing customers and steaming plates of food. Her little hands pressed against the glass, leaving faint prints as her eyes followed every slice of pie served, every cup of coffee poured. Her stomach growled so loudly she feared the people inside might hear. Summoning her courage, she pushed open the heavy door, a small bell jingling overhead. The sudden rush of heat and smell of freshly cooked meals made her dizzy with longing. She approached the counter timidly, her voice barely above a whisper as she asked the owner if she could wash dishes, sweep floors, anything in exchange for a little food. The man barely looked up from the register, his face cold and unwelcoming. "We don't do handouts," he said sharply, his words cutting deeper than the wind outside. When she didn't move right away, he waved his hand impatiently, muttering, "Go on, out you go." The few customers who noticed quickly looked away, pretending not to see. Shoulders drooping, Lila stepped back into the freezing rain, the diner's door closing behind her with a hollow thud. The warmth and laughter inside faded, replaced by the bitter chill of the street. She wrapped her arms around herself, unsure where she would go next, her only companions the sound of rain and the ache of an empty stomach. Lila sat on the cold, wet curb, pulling her knees tightly to her chest as the rain dripped from her tangled hair. Her thin shoes were soaked through, and each breath came out in shaky clouds of steam. She tried to keep her eyes down, hiding the tears that threatened to spill. Just then, a pair of worn brown boots stopped in front of her. Slowly, she looked up to see a man, maybe in his late 40s, holding a paper bag that smelled faintly of fresh bread. His eyes were kind, filled with a quiet concern. He crouched down so they were at eye level. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" he asked softly, his voice gentle but steady. Lila hesitated, her small frame tensing. She had learned to be careful with strangers. Still, the comforting aroma from the bag made her stomach twist with hunger. The man noticed. Without another word, he pulled out a warm loaf, broke it in half, and offered it to her. She stared for a moment before cautiously reaching out. The first bite was almost too much to bear, soft, warm, and exactly what she needed. She devoured it quickly, barely pausing to breathe. Seeing this, he smiled faintly and handed her the rest. "There's more where that came from," he said gently. For the first time in a long while, Lila felt a flicker of safety in a stranger's presence. The rain still poured, but sitting beside him, she didn't feel quite as alone in the world anymore. Inside a small cafe with fogged-up windows, Lila sat across from the man, her hands wrapped tightly around a steaming cup of tea. The warmth seeped into her fingers, calming the shivers that had gripped her all night. He had introduced himself as Daniel, his tone patient and reassuring, as if he didn't want to scare her away. Between hesitant sips, he gently asked about her parents. Lila's gaze dropped to the table, her voice trembling as she explained that they had died 2 years ago. Since then, she had bounced from one shelter to another, sometimes sleeping on streets when no beds were available. Daniel listened without interrupting, his expression soft but pained. He understood loss far more than he wished to. Years ago, he had buried his own daughter after a sudden illness, a wound that had never truly healed. Looking at Lila now, he recognized the same emptiness in her eyes that had haunted him for years. She was small and fragile, yet there was a quiet strength in the way she spoke, as if survival had been her only teacher. For a moment, neither spoke. The sound of rain tapping against the glass filled the silence, carrying with it an unspoken connection between them. Daniel realized this wasn't just a chance encounter, it felt like a crossing of two lives meant to meet. Lila didn't know it yet, but Daniel's mind was already turning, considering how he could be more than just a stranger who bought her tea. Daniel couldn't shake the image of Lila's small frame hunched over that cup of tea, her eyes carrying years of pain no child should know. Over the next week, he made it his quiet mission to be there for her. Every morning, he'd stop by the shelter where she was staying, bringing warm breakfasts wrapped in paper and a few jokes to make her smile. In the afternoons, he'd take her to the park or the library, letting her pick out books she liked. Slowly, she began to laugh. A soft, cautious sound at first, but it grew warmer each day. Daniel noticed how she clung to those moments, as if afraid they might disappear. One evening, as he walked back to his apartment, the thought hit him with such force it stopped in mid-step. Lila didn't just need kindness, she needed a home. His home. The next morning, he stood in the quiet, fluorescent-lit adoption office, his hands clutching a folder of documents. "I'm here for a little girl named Lila," he told the clerk, his voice steady and determined. The woman behind the desk raised her eyebrows, surprised at his certainty, but she began pulling out the necessary forms. Daniel signed each page without hesitation, his heart racing not from doubt, but from the hope of giving Lila a future she deserved. For the first time in years, he felt like he was moving towards something that truly mattered, a choice that would change both of their lives forever. Months had passed since that rainy night, and Lila's world had transformed completely. The small, bare spaces she once slept in were replaced by a cozy bedroom of her own, its walls painted a soft yellow, with shelves lined with books and a teddy bear sitting on her pillow. Each morning, she woke to the smell of pancakes drifting from the kitchen, where Daniel would be waiting with a smile and a plate just for her. The house felt alive now, filled with laughter, the sound of pages turning as they read together, and the simple comfort of knowing someone cared. Lila was going to school regularly, her backpack always packed the night before, her handwriting getting neater with each passing week. That evening, as the sun dipped low and cast a golden glow through her window, Daniel came in to tuck her under the warm blankets. He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead and whispered, "You're safe now, Lila. Always." She smiled, hugging the teddy bear close, her eyes glistening not with sadness, but with the quiet joy of belonging. For so long, she had wandered through life unseen, but now, she had a place, a family, and a future. Daniel, too, felt something he thought he'd lost forever, a sense of purpose, and the warmth of being needed. In the gentle silence of that moment, they both understood that kindness had given them more than a home. It had given them each other.